Gee, that looks like my work.
Hmm.
This is a piece that I started a year and a half ago and sat around a long time and finally got around to finishing. And it's basically red cedar spherical, and it's got a circular foot.
And that's a tung oil finish on that, Bob?
Yeah, it's just tung oil, and it's about I'd say 10 inches in diameter by 8 tall, that kind of general dimension. It's not little.
Oh, wow, it's 10. I didn't realize it was that big.
Yeah.
You need one of those dog biscuit. You need one of those dog biscuit things in that crack.
Well, the crack has been fixed with CA, but I didn't. Sometimes I just burn over them, put a design or something, but I didn't on this one. I thought the grain pattern was pretty interesting here.
It is beautiful. Bark on, no.
So what orientation was that? So is the pith is this right there?
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
That's correct.
okay. Right. That's nice.
And this is a piece of maple burl from LV Jackson. And this is a even bigger piece. This is like a foot wide and 11 inches tall and probably weighs 5 or 6 pounds. And again, just tung oil.
And what type of burl do you think that is?
It's maple.
Maple.
I know the log that they came from.
Yeah, you got a piece of it. Bob Edmondson got a piece of it.
How do you
Yeah.
keep the tongue all so shiny? When I use it, it seems to just be a matte finish.
Usually about the third coat, it starts to shine up.
Okay.
And I basically put the first coat on and let it sit a couple hours and then wipe off excess. And then wait a day or so and do a second coat. And that one I wipe after an hour or so because it isn't going to absorb the same way.
Yeah.
And then if I do a third coat, I might hang around and rub it for 15 or 20 minutes and that's it. It dries looking like that.
Is that a calabash shape?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So it's got a round bottom on it.
It's got a slight concave bottom, but basically, as you can see, I've got it up on those points to keep it stable.
Bob, what is LB Johnson? Several people seem to know what that means. I don't.
LV Jackson.
LV Jackson.
Stefan.
What is
LV was one of the founding members of this group. He was president of this group, and he owns and operates Jackson's Tree Service and regularly has nice wood available. He calls me up and says, "Hey, I've got yada yada. Do you want it?"
My first 10 years on this group, we couldn't get through a meeting without the mention of LV Jackson coming up.
Yeah.
Which maybe is a quick second. How old is this WGNC? When was it founded?
94.
Got it. Were you co-founder too, Bob?
No, I didn't. I think I didn't join until see, I got here in 98. I probably joined in 99. So I've been a member for 23 years,
Is there any co-founder here on the video call?
no, I don't think so.
Hey, how big was LV's lathe? Remember you had a big.
Oh my God.
12 foot long.
Yeah, he could easily turn pieces that were like 6 feet in diameter.
Jeez.
Yeah, I think
He
he had
had
a, yeah, he had a 12-foot bed, and I think his diameter capability was, I think it was only about 55 or something. Because when I started doing the wall sculptures, I called him because I wanted to try and do something bigger, and it wasn't quite large enough for the swing I was trying to do at the time.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah, I just remember that his pieces were generally very large.
yeah,
He used a one-way 24-36 for his little stuff.
Well, that's
a
it.
whole nother world.
Yeah, nice to have a source like that hanging around. So,
You have to have room for it.
yeah.
all right.
Ooh, cedar,
So,
pretty.
Ray,
Okay, is LV Jackson still a member?
He's
Yes.
a life member.
Yep.
He,
He hasn't been
Okay, good.
in it in many years.
he was at one of our sessions in the last couple of years, or before the pandemic. I'm trying to remember what it was, but he was supporting a demonstrator.
right? Yeah, I
Anyway,
remember. Yep, yeah, I remember that. So, all right, Ray.
So this was my failed attempt at a calabash back about a month ago. I think it either had just come out in Woodturning magazine, or I dug up an older issue and it had a whole article in there about calabash bowls, which I didn't know the history of them, and even though I've seen a couple of times, seems to me one of who's the Irish guy that building the big school over there. I saw him turn one once, but I didn't have the concept in my mind, and the article didn't really help me as much. It has a round bottom, and everybody loves this little bowl. It's only about 4 inches across, and it was a piece of scrap actually from a cutout, like when you're cutting a bowl out of a half log. So and it had a crack in it even before I started, but I just wanted to see if I could get the shape, and got a round bottom, and people come over and spin it. It would make it, but I missed the curve on the top, and the waist is way too low. So it was really entertaining for me to see our last demo. That's why I took this picture from the side, is to see where, if you go to the left, I mean, that curve should have continued. And now I know that curve needs to continue down, not flatten out like it did. And I think that the high point needs to be, I'm not sure, I have this, little map here from, or the picture that I got off the screen from the demo, and it's 3 inch and 4 1/4 is where his waist is on that bowl out of 7. So got to kind of get myself into what the ratio is. It's not quite a third, is it? I don't think it's a 2/3 ratio.
No, it's not quite. It's just under 2/3, but I think if you use the 2/3, at least getting started, you'd be pretty
It'd be
close.
better. It would be
Yeah.
better than it is. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And also, Ray, we loaded his resource sheets out on the website. So if you go out to the website and you look under the resources tab on the menu on the top, and then go down to documents, and then when you get in documents, look for demonstration, you'll find the resource. And he's got I think there's 3 different images in there that you can print off, right, that show the measurements and so forth for the calabash.
oh, okay, good. Yeah, it's a popular little bowl. Everybody likes it. It's just didn't come out to be what I was hoping it would be, but
So you've invented the wide mouth calabash.
there you go. So, well, he originally showed those 3 shapes, and one of them was pretty low, actually.
Yeah.
Kind of a shallow bowl, and that's a challenge, to get those curves. And as I'm looking at this curve from the picture, it's definitely, it's not a continuous, it's a continuous curve, but the radius varies. The
Yeah.
bottom radius is different than the top radius, at least it looks like it is to me.
Yeah, I think that this curve here probably needs to be flatter.
Yes,
Yep.
Right
And
in there, and
definitely.
And that
then
high point needs to be, yep,
that would-
right where you're.
yeah, that
Yeah,
would move
right
it
about
up.
there.
right there, and then it continued on there. I think, but yeah, I think it's just, this is a little bit too abrupt. But I thought it was interesting with the Emilio's demo in that he actually keeps a picture of what one looks like and
Yeah.
references it as he turns. I mean, so with the 1,000 that he's done, it's still not intuitive. He doesn't have the muscle memory or the vision that that he still has to refer to a picture to confirm his shape. I thought that was very, very interesting. That's the first time I've ever had a demonstrator say that.
I think he's looking for a very consistent shape, and so that, that's why you would have something that's a standard and have it always there.
I like your variation. We should call it a sort of bash.
Sort of bash.
Well, I do want to say though, there is no uniform shape for the calabash. I think we would be fooling ourselves that they need to be a certain size. I have a book on the history of the calabash with a number of photographs of historic Hawaiian calabashes. They have different curves, and the changing point is at different levels, sometimes in the lower third, sometimes in the upper third. I just want to throw that out there. And if you say, Ray, everybody loves this your bowl, what more do you want? This is perfect.
Yep.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, I think understanding too that it came, I didn't know where the name came from because it doesn't sound very Hawaiian, the calabash, but I then finding out that it came from the gourd.
Yeah,
And the gourds are going to vary a lot in the way they grow. There's a general shape, but it's obviously very organic, and it will change from one gourd to another. So, there's a difference. But I think there's an identifiable shape, right? And this one's
There
not
is.
it.
And I think what's missing in this one is the flaring out in the upper part, that the upper part or the upper half of this bowl is completely flat.
Yeah. Mhm.
So there would be really a transition point where you then get flare a little bit outward so that it's everywhere is round in some shape and not this flatness.
Yeah, I agree. So I definitely want to have a bowl for the next meeting, the next show and tell, so that we can
Great.
take a look at it.
Does
Look
this one have a
forward to that.
crack on one side, Ray?
I'm sorry.
Does this one have a crack on one side where the white is? The first image seemed to suggest that.
Yes, that was a crack. It was actually it was already cracked in the wood when I started it. And it's a scrap, literally it was a scrap piece, and I was just trying to get the shape right. That's why I did it. And it's not a very big bowl, so it was something I could get done quickly. But once I had hollow, obviously, once I took the center out, I couldn't fix the curve on top anymore because there wasn't enough wood. But once I got it off the lathe and put it on the table, I instantly knew that it was wrong. And the bottom curve isn't right at all. I mean, that should be definitely almost a perfect radius on the bottom, it seems, the ones that I've seen, but we'll get better at it.
No, that's good. It's the timing, you doing this and then having a demo right after it, and then having the discussion, be able to talk about it. I mean, I think it's nice to be able to sit here and critique it and look at it. And Stefan's comments are even particularly more interesting with there is no right answer, I guess, is the it's on this
We're
stuff.
talking about wood turning.
Yeah.
And Ray, what finish do you have on it?
What finishes on that? That is finished with microcrystalline wax, I think. That's all that's on there right now.
All right. Well, good discussion.
So these are some of my, why aren't you making these lists for us? On my list of things I have been accused of not making is we're the only household in the family that doesn't have a pepper mill. I haven't made one for myself or for my wife yet. I have a list from all three of my wife and my two daughters is, why haven't you made a cake stand for us when you've made so many others? And so I have a whole list like that. Well, rolling pins is one of it. I have both my daughters bake and their daughters bake. And so I don't know why I waited so long to do this. It didn't seem like it was much of a project, but it was very challenging. That's Sapele, is that how Sapele? On top. Maple was literally from a scrap piece that I got over at the wood store. It must have broken off the 2-inch board and they had it in the scrap bin. And that's red maple or red oak on the bottom. And I was a little concerned about the red oak being too porous. When I got the board, it was really open pored, but with the sanding and everything, it really came out with a nice finish. So I'm going to make a total of 7. So I finished one today. I had wood turning class at ACC today. So I finished one there, and I actually left. When I started these, I would take the blank and turn the blank down to the 1-inch diameter on the end, and then I would create a tenon. And my thought originally was to move, round it between centers, and then move it to I have a G3 chuck with the small jaws, and put it in the tenon to stabilize it. And of course, you have to bring up the tailstock. But after I made the first couple, I got so involved in making it that I forgot to put it in the chuck. So I just ended up making these on centers, and it worked out fine. So I don't have to lose as much wood. I leave about a 1/4 inch on the tailstock and maybe a little bit more in the headstock just to let it move away, from the headstock. But so the big one, the one on the right is 20 inches. The maple one is 20 inches, and the red maples, because of the only board, the reds, what did I say? Red oak. The only board I could get was 20 inches. So they came out around 19 or 19.5 inches. And
All right.
Well, they're going to be gifts for my daughters and granddaughters. These will be signed Grampy and not with my name on it, probably.
Well, good idea. Glad you're finally moving on to getting the household chores done there.
Yeah, right.
All right, Rita.
Chris, so I can say.
You're going.
Am I
You're
on?
live.
Okay, this is a bowl. Jim didn't take a very good picture of
That's
my bowl, I
perfect.
have to say. But this is a bowl that I made quite some time ago that I call my Calabash, North Carolina style. It has a perfectly round bottom, and it's made from magnolia, which is one of my favorite woods, although I think people think it's a weed down here, but I like it. It doesn't have any cracks in it, so I did not have to repair it like the typical calabash bowl supposedly has. But someone mentioned it previously, Ray, I think you mentioned the calabash bowl was made by the Hawaiians. It was very utilitarian, and they're not all the same shape, nor are they used them every day for different things. So they were made for what they needed, the purpose they needed them for. So I think anyone that makes something that's basically the round bottom style with they're okay.
And the
They're all
round, and the
calabash.
round bottom sat in the
The
sand. It was
round
made to
bottoms actually
sit
sat in the
sand.
sand, and I've seen them used over there. So, you know, that's basically what, it was really interesting during his demo, though, I thought, that he could bring his family, the culture and the heritage of the calabash bowls that he had from his family and from his in-laws. That was really especially
Yeah, it
interesting
was
to me.
really nice, yeah.
That's a really nice bowl read. I'm surprised it didn't crack. Looks like there's a pith there, maybe a branch coming in there.
She finished it with kukui nut oil.
No, it's finished with lacquer, although I have some kukui nuts and I didn't know that they use those for finish, but usually the royalty also wore the kukui nuts strung around their neck, so.
So Rita, we should bring this back for the next show and tell as well, because Emiliano's going to come back for it. So I know he would enjoy seeing this.
Oh, okay, maybe my husband can take a better, clearer picture of it.
That's perfect. They did that.
So Rita, is this freehand wood burning up here?
No, that's my name.
I know, but did you do that freehand?
Yeah, yes, I just write that.
That's the neatest wood burning signature I've ever seen.
It's not wood burn though.
It's
with a permanent marker.
Okay, all right, okay. That explains just like, how did you get that so neat?
And how big is that? How big is that bowl?
It's about
6.5 by 2.5.
6.5 by 2.5. Okay.
And Rita, is your handwriting after you put the lacquer on it or before?
We do one spray of lacquer on it, a light spray first, and let that dry and cure. And then I sign it, and then we spray more lacquer.
And then second question, I've only turned Magnolia once, and it was a completely white and characterless wood. This has such great color with growth rings. Did you do anything with that? Or is this
No, nothing at all. That's exactly the way it is. And it's interesting. I like Magnolia because some of them are really white with the gray. They're all different. This one is kind of a brownish color. It's very nice. It came from my next door neighbor.
It was our neighbor's tree, yeah.
And why do you like it so much? What is it about it that you like?
I just like the grain, the patterns in it are very interesting all the time.
Yeah.
I have some magnolia I got from the Wilmington area, and it's the white, very white with
very white,
gray lines. And I thought about what could I do to enhance that in the finishing. Yeah.
Dyes.
Also, I have to say also, when you sign these things, you put a coat of lacquer on and then sign it with the magic marker, whatever the marker. But then you dust the next couple coats on. If you put a real coat on there, it'll dissolve the coat underneath it and blur it. You dust a couple coats on and it'll solidify, and then you can put a good coat or a couple coats on after that.
Okay, good hint. All right. Well, thanks, Rita.
This would be a good kind of wood for doing liming wax, except that it doesn't have that really grainy like ash or oak does. But the actual pattern of it would be beautiful if you could do that.
All right. Well, thank you. Thanks for sharing that.
Oh, I like that.
Well, you don't even have to guess who did this one.
Okay.
The calipers are underneath it, Jim.
Yeah, this is the calabash. No, this is a. Show the next one first.
Can't win.
Yeah, this is. You take about a 10 by 10. There's 3 pieces of wood. With a cherry, Purple Heart, maple, and cherry. Anyway, the 4 of them add up to about an inch. And then, no, this is almost 2 inches. they would add up to 2 inches. You glue them together, so you've got a 10 by 10 piece, 2 inches thick. Then you cut the 10 by 10 piece on end, from one corner to the other corner, diagonally. And you take the piece from one side, put it on the other side, and glue them back together. And that gives you the bowl blank for this.
And he has an assistant who does a lot of the gluing.
Yeah, when we start gluing, we have to glue.
And no joining or planing required, right?
That's right. That's right. Well, each piece is sanded. I run it through that 1632 sander, but each piece is sanded.
The photography is wonderful, Jim.
See?
Mhm.
Thank you. I owe you.
The last one was too.
I owe you big time.
I know how clear they are,
Anyway,
precise and clear.
yeah,
How'd you get it so clear and
Yeah.
focused? That's great.
I thought I did a good job.
An F-22.
Anyway, I use this in all kinds of things. You can make table legs. If you make a 2 by 2, or say you're making 3 by 3 table legs, take 3 or 4 pieces of wood and glue them all together to make 3 inches wide by 3 inches deep. Then cut it corner to corner, take the one side, glue it on the other side. This happened when I was making a kaleidoscope spindle. Between the cradles, I have a spindle, and I ran out of the good wood. And I thought, damn, if I put a dark wood and a light wood together, it's just a dark and light wood spindle, you know? So I cut it corner to corner, put the one on the other side, and now everybody loves that. I say, I do that for all kinds of things. But I use this in ringmaster bowls, all kinds of things. It comes out really interesting. You'd never figure it out in a ringmaster bowl. Anyway,
Nicely done.
thank you.
Thank you.
How do you do the cutting on that kind of angle?
And so,
Cut it with a bandsaw, but I don't use a fence. You can't use a fence. I make a 90-degree, this is another whole world. I make a 90-degree fence. Sometime I'll do a screen share if you ever want to see one. And I don't use a fence at all on a bandsaw anymore at all. I make a 90-degree fence. It's about 9 inches high, about 7 inches goes out on the base of the saw table, with a gusset in the middle, so it's 90 degrees. And then anything I want to cut, I clamp it to that, and I make my cut 2/3 of the way through, take the clamp off, put it on the other end, and finish the cut. And that way you can cut perfectly straight lines. You can cut S-shaped lines. They're exactly 90 degrees to the table.
The glue up is all flat. There's no angles until after you've made the block, right?
Yes, and the bandsaw cut is on the outside of the blank.
Yep.
And the neat part of making it like in table legs is you can make 4 legs that match perfectly. And the only bad part about that is everybody that sees it would swear the table leg is crooked. And you have to have a
Because
framing
of the-
square
yeah.
nearby, because they would bet money that that thing is crooked.
No, I've made some pepper mills with that technique, Jim, and people they almost look distorted when you
Yeah.
start putting beads and coves in them. And but no, it's a great way to save wood too, because you can get that diagonal cut without gluing up diagonal pieces. So it works real well. So nicely done.
Here's a tip learned the hard way though. If you think that you're going to save time, like making spindles by taking long pieces and making a bunch and then cut it down, don't do that, because if your diagonal isn't close to the shape you're going to make, it will be way too slight to have any effect.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you can also use the same technique with SpectraPly and get some really interesting effects with it. So, all right, well, good.
All right, well,
Thanks,
thank
Tim.
you.
All right, Terry.
Okay, the last time I made a pierced piece, everybody said I needed a light in it. So I made another one with a light in it.
You sure it's not the same one with a light in it?
It's not the same one with a light in it. I can assure you of that. The light, the tea light wouldn't fit in the other one, so I had to make a new one.
Very nice.
So if you go to the next picture, basically it's just a little piece of maple bottom with some, and then the middle is ash and then a little maple finial on the top. And it just sits over the top. And I pierced it the same way I did before. I drill a starter hole and then I use my Dremel. And then I just, a lot of hand sanding to sand out the holes. And I made these a little smaller this time because the piece itself is smaller. It's only about 4 1/4 inches high when it's assembled and only about 2 3/4 inches in diameter. And it's just one of those little LED tea lights, so it won't start on fire. And then I just put a little decoration on the top, a little texturing on the top, but I didn't highlight it. So I thought when I put finish on, it would pop out, but it really didn't because it's kind of end grain anyway. So I needed, next time I'll have to do something different there.
Hey, Terry, how did you do the piercing? Did I miss that or?
I basically start out by drilling a small pilot hole with just, a hand drill, electric drill. And then I use my Dremel tool with one of those cuts all burrs and and ream it out. So the thickness there, it's just a little over about 2 millimeters.
Good. Okay.
The wall thickness of the ash.
Hey,
Nice.
And then I
Terry,
just
on the,
put some beads on the bottom because I thought the bottom was too plain. So I just threw some beads on there.
Oh, it looks nice.
I can't see exactly what you have for the embellishments on the top where you said it doesn't stand out there. The
Yeah.
thing,
I
but
just
you
did it. I
can-
just did a texturing tool. One of the little ones that a lot of people out on the internet, you can make them yourself, put a handle on. It's a little piece of pipe, some brass sleeves, and then it's a Dremel burr, a round Dremel burr. And so you can see it's between those two little, and I kind of tried to highlight it a little bit with the two.
But you can do, I
thing.
don't know if you have a burner, but if you have a flat blade, like a pad, for your wood burner, you
Yeah.
can just burn the top surface of it around there between those lines, and that would enhance the texture that you put on there.
I should have done something like that. Like I said, I thought that, before if I do texturing, usually when I put some finish on it, it darkens up a little bit. But since this is end grain anyway, it really didn't darken up at all. Versus the rest of the end grain. So I was a little disappointed, but I already had finish on it. So
Yeah.
Terry, I
It
want
looks
to
good. Looks good anyway.
Terry, I
Thank
want to
you.
say two things,
Yeah.
please.
yes, sure.
The first is I love the idea that this looks like a lidded box, but the entire box is the lid.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank
Really adorable. The other is after you drill the holes, you start out with a small hole and then you open it. Is that freehand or did you draw out the shapes of the openings before?
I just do a random drawing. I start out by putting kind of a random shape drawing on the piece. And then I drill a hole kind of in the middle or a thick part because, or, you know, a wide part, because once in a while, you know, when you drill it, if you're not really careful, you get a little chip out on the front or the back. And I want to be able to, you know, basically take that out when I enlarge the hole to make the shape.
I just want to know if where the freehand part was. The freehand was in the drawing the pattern.
Yeah, yeah. And then,
Very
you
nice.
know, when I'm doing the burr, I generally follow what I've drawn, but it doesn't come out exactly. And once in a while, like I said, if I get a little bit of a chip out, I'll revamp it to take that out and, you know, change the pattern around to just clean it up.
Turn it into a feature. Yeah. Got it. Thank you.
Sure.
Nicely done, nicely done, Terry.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
it made sense to me to have the whole lid come off, because otherwise you're trying to turn a tea light on and dump it out of there, and then, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And I actually thought about it before I did it, and I said, the logical way is to have the whole thing, you know, a base that the tea light sits in, and then the whole thing comes off the top.
Yeah.
And it's not a Woodturners suction fit either. I purposely made it so you can take the lid off easily without having the thing fall apart, or, you know, pull it apart.
Good plan.
Okay, go to the next picture first. So I've done this before, where I've taken some small bowls and kind of glued them together to make something else after they were, you know, once turned. And this time I was trying to figure out how to do it again a little differently. And I decided to make a segmented ring to put in the middle. Okay, you can go back. And so this is the way it ended up. I basically flattened them out, glued the segmented ring in there, and then turned the whole thing. And I turned this one into a little potpourri pot. And so the wood there is slightly spalted and also has some ambrosia on the maple, and then the segmented ring is red oak. You can't see it here, but it really has a lot of chatoyance on the segmented ring, so it really kind of stands out when you actually see it up close.
Very nice. At first glance, it looks like the top and bottom were just cut out of the same sphere.
Yeah, well, I did purposely line up, you know, it's cross grained, so I purposely lined up the pith area so that the rings almost looked like they were meant like what you said.
Yeah.
It came from the same log. I have no idea if they were next to each other, across from each other, wherever, because I did like 8 of them, and you know, I just picked 2 that were closest together in size.
That's nice. Nicely done.
Yeah, and then I actually have another one that I'm working on right now. It was very similar, but I'm going to put a lid on this one and make it a lidded box. So when I made the segmented ring, I actually made it thick, and then I cut it in half to use on 2 different projects instead of just one.
Good. All right. Well, thank you.
Sure.
All right, Bob.
Yeah, calabash bowl. No, just kidding. That piece of wood was one that I got at the wood sale, and it was marked as cherry with a question mark next to it. And as I started to turn it, I'm still not convinced it's cherry, but I don't really know what it is. Any ideas?
It's pear.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It looks like Bradford pear.
Really? Wow. Okay. It's got a nice chatoyance on it. You can see that in that picture right there on that section that's kind of curved there.
Yeah.
It had a really nice look to it.
What are the dimensions on that, Bob?
It's 7 inches in diameter, and with the finial on there, it's 5 1/4 inches high. And the finial's made out of hard maple, and I just dyed it black with using transparent dye, and it's hollowed on the inside as well. But I have no idea where the design came from. It was just one of those things you put on the lathe and you start to run it. And that's what came out.
So is that a lid, or is it hollow and that's just
It's hollow, and that you just pull that finial off and you can get into the inside if you want to.
okay. So that's just a trim around the edge there that makes it look like a lid.
Yeah, exactly. That's all part of the.
Okay.
Underneath that, it's about a 2-inch in diameter opening into the inside.
Okay.
Oh, so that's all one. The light colored wood's all one piece.
It's all one piece. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it definitely looks like a lid there in the center.
So, and I haven't
that's
put
interesting.
any oil on it yet. I just put that 50/50 Zinsser shellac and denatured alcohol on it just to seal it up. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do yet.
And as far as how the eye is fooled, your finial comes off as the opening, but it just as well could be the finial lifts up that round disc under it as an opening,
Yeah.
or the whole thing right down to the beading comes out. So that's
could.
really neat.
Yeah.
Makes you want to pick it up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have a question. What maybe your opinions on this? We were having a discussion in the house here about the finial, and I thought it was fairly appropriate for that size, and my wife thinks it's too delicate,
Oh.
and I'm not sure.
I don't think.
Well,
Yeah, I like it that all the cones are going the same way. It's not like it's a plate or something like sometimes people have.
Yeah.
If it lifted that whole upper portion, I would say it's too delicate, but I think it's appropriate.
Okay. All right.
I think it seems appropriate for that. It doesn't look too delicate to me. So,
Yeah, me too. I think if it were, if that were to lift up more than just the finial for the opening, and the other pieces went with it, then I think that finial would be too dark. But the fact that it is really separate from everything else gives it that distinction. I think it's really good.
Well, good. Thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks for the input.
all right, nicely done, Bob.
Thanks.
All right, Merle, you there?
Yeah. Okay, I hate to sound morbid, but this is my cremationer.
I was going to ask who's inside.
I could tell because it was so tall.
Hopefully not me for a long time. But
You're gonna go, you might as well go in what you want to go in, right?
Absolutely right. I got a hold of this piece of spalted maple, about 2 or 3 years ago, and it was about 7 inches square, and the maple itself was 14 inches long. And I finally decided here last December that this was going to be my cremation urn. And so from the base to the tip of the finial, it's 17.5 inches, and it's 6 inches round.
wow.
And what is that accent stripe in the? What is this? Is that
Turquoise granules.
Oh, okay.
And I tried that, that Solarex or whatever it was that,
the UV resin?
yeah.
Scott Grove
Yeah.
did?
Yeah.
And it works pretty good. The first time I tried it, it was a total failure, but this time when I tried it, it actually works pretty good when you're trying to do something small strips in the round. I actually put the epoxy or the accent around it, and I mixed it with turquoise dust. And I did it halfway around and then used the little light that cost $40 to buy. And
Merle,
you must have fought gravity.
What?
You must have fought gravity to get that on that round surface clean like that.
No, actually, that stuff pretty much stays. It doesn't. It's relatively thick. I put it halfway around, and then I took the UV flashlight that I bought from him, and didn't hardly. You had to go back because not everything stuck right the first time, but I had to put a second application on some portions. But other than that, after I figured out how to use it, and it probably would have helped if I would have read the directions the first time a little bit better.
is your lid threaded?
Pardon?
Is the lid threaded?
No.
Okay.
That's
Merle.
nice.
Hey, Merle,
Yeah.
if we turn that over, does it have a best if used by date?
Oh, Terry.
No, but I did. I usually don't date my stuff, but this one I did so that I know approximately how long it's been sitting around.
Oh,
Yeah, you'll never see that.
yeah.
Somebody in my family.
Yeah.
Terry comes in late, but hits the zinger right off the bat. So
Yeah.
all right, nicely done, Merle.
Okay.
And also yours, Merle.
Yeah, this one I didn't turn. Believe it or not, that piece is a piece of maple burl that somebody gave me and said they had talked to me about it first and says, can you turn me a bowl out of a maple burl? And I said, of course. They brought it to me. I cut 3 inches off the end with the opening up because it was kind of ragged, and that piece is 25 inches by 15 inches, and there was no way I was going to turn that. So I just actually used a 4.5 inch grinder, and it came out really nice.
Cool.
Put on about 5 coats of lacquer, and now if I can just get a hold of the gentleman because he wants it back, but he won't answer my phone calls. If he doesn't call me back by April 1st, it just will disappear.
So how did you get it? Did you just draw a circle on the top and then just grind it out?
Yep. I found it's actually about 10 inches in diameter in the circled part, and I just ground it out. I'd never done that before, and I went for the gusto, and it really actually turned out very nice.
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
That's beautiful, really.
Nice curve on those edges.
Yeah,
Sounds like it'd be a great stand for the urn.
Yeah. Merle,
Okay.
do you wet sand any of your, like the smoothed areas in between your lacquer coats?
No, what I don't wet sand. What I did use and basically I didn't sand any of those
knobs,
the burl parts. I
Right.
just took a gray non-woven pad and stacked about 3 of them together and put a nut or a bolt through the middle of it and attached my drill, and it polished up real nice.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, something I learned years ago from the guy that taught me lacquering is with natural edge things and stuff. Because I would wet sand in between every 4 coats, do a final coat in matte finish, and then your turned and sculpted areas that are actually refined, wet sand those, and it brings back out the gloss, and it gives you this really nice contrast between your natural burl points, having them as a matte finish, and then the other part as a gloss.
That's interesting.
I've never thought of that. I just, the can of lacquer that I grabbed happened to say semi-gloss on it.
Okay.
That's a nice piece, Merle. I saw this and I have some burl that shape, and I said, that's a good idea. I think you may see something similar to that coming out here soon. But I hope to turn mine. So
well, the biggest, well, I could have turned it on one of my lathes. I have a DVR XP that'll do off the bed, but man, with the shape that sucker was in, that would have been so off balance. I don't know if I would have wanted to try it.
No, that's nice. That's a beautiful piece. All right, Preston.
Hey, if you remember a couple of months ago, we had Jason come in with the Saturn bowls.
Yep.
And I was watching him on Instagram, and he had this Saturn bowl kit that's also basket illusion. So I decided to get one, and he's got PDF instructions about different patterns you can use. And if you can see in the next picture, the inside where the brown ring is, that's the Saturn ring cut. And those pencil marks are how it lines up perfectly. And then I've got to turn that tenon off, and then get it going on the, well, I guess burn the lines first, and then turn that tenon off and put some color on it.
So did you make that little extremely thin parting tool that he uses to do that?
No, I didn't do it. I just bought this from him as a starter kit, just to have something to look at as an example, right?
So it was already cut in that
That's
spot?
correct. Right.
Okay.
Right.
So on this picture, Preston, the piece in the middle is that the bottom of the previous picture, or is that a piece you put in there?
No, it's the bottom of a previous picture.
All right, so that's the bottom, and then this one,
Right.
this one is the top. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. Yes, I'm going to have to try to match the curve of that bowl when I take that tenon off.
Okay.
Probably use a vacuum chuck.
Well,
And
well,
I'm trying to remember, did he put tape on the two pieces when he was taking the tenon off?
Yeah, so what he does is he tapes it up so it stays together.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna mount it in the chuck, obviously. You're gonna have an indexing set up.
Right.
You're gonna tape it so it doesn't move. You're gonna index it, and then he leaves it taped, puts it either in a vacuum chuck or coal jaws, and then matches the profile of the interior of that bowl.
Okay.
Removing that tenon.
Yep.
Well, we look forward to seeing the completed piece, Preston.
Well, I might have to go to my friend's shop to do some of it. Mike, hint, hint.
Well, I have 2 of those sitting there that he sent me to do, that I've been sitting on for over a month and a half, and I feel really bad about. I've just been busy, so let's make a date and we'll knock it out and then make it happen.
Okay, sure. I like that.
Do you have side-by-side recliners, Michael? Because that's what you need.
I do
right?
actually. I actually do.
All right, there you go.
Oh,
I have
good one.
the his and hers, but it's not a hers So I guess it's just a his and his because she never said.
Yeah.
something.
But
Oh,
he's
good.
got a bunch of these in 3 different sizes, I think, on his website.
That's great.
Yeah, with partitions. So he's got that one, which is the 2 partition, and he's got one that's got 3 rings in it.
That's nice. Well, I look forward to seeing it, Preston.
Yeah. I do too.
All right, Terry Brown.
Well, I haven't been able to do any nice stuff like you guys. They bring me a lot of heavy items. 11.5 foot long post. This one here is red grandis, which isn't bad, but it's hard to hold a big old long post and put it on centers on both ends. So I simply have these pieces, have a hole in the top and a down on the bottom. You keep stacking up. And if you look at the top right-hand side, you'll see 4 shims with holes in it. So you literally shim it up until your post is where it needs to be. You go crank the tailstock in, pull the shims out, pull the rack out, and turn it. Like, since I'm by myself, it's about the only way I can do it.
So these pieces here,
Those right there are the
they
excess.
stack. Okay, so so it's just cross cribbing.
Yes.
That all those pieces are the same, and you just cross crib them. They
That's
all
it.
interlock until you get up to the point where you need the shims.
Yes.
Huh.
Very good.
That's interesting.
Smart. Now I do have to ask where an 11-foot or whatever post is going to go.
11.5 foot post is going on South Buchanan Street in Durham. They are adding on to the house and they wanted to copy what they had.
Oh, wow.
And they've got 250 6-inch spindles that are decorative that go in between there. And a couple little brackets and a few other little turnings.
That's so cool.
This one is 9.5 feet long and it's going to Beaufort. Lady's had one in the corner. Been rotted and repaired it so many times, she said she just wants a new one. So,
That's nice. That's an interesting. Now you should, if you had submitted that under tips and tricks, you might have won a prize and gotten some free wood.
yeah, I'm lucky to get here when I can.
Yeah.
I'm all right on the prize. But also, I forgot to tell you, underneath that holds it in place between the waves is a little piece of 1/4 inch plywood. So that if you're close on tolerance, you don't have it locked in place when you try to slide it out.
Right.
Okay, let's go to the next one then. There's a First Horizon Bank in Hillsboro. There's some nice big columns in it. They did not stave construct the columns. They didn't end grain it or brick mold it. They just had raw ends sticking out and they rotted something fierce. So this is a replacement for it. It's 26 inches in diameter and 6 inches tall. They will eventually bandsaw this so that they can slip it in place around the steel column that's in the middle of the wood column.
I was gonna ask how they're gonna lift the column and put it in, but that bandsaw will do it.
What they did is screwed 2x4s to it vertically, and then screwed a 2x4 under that, and then some 2x4s of correct length on one end and jack on the other. So they jacked it up and then slid the pieces in. And a neat thing that I just thought about to tell them the other day, don't cut it directly straight in half. Cut it wavy, just like a jigsaw puzzle part. When you slide it together and try to clamp it, you don't have to worry about it shifting sideways. You just stick it together and clamp it wherever you can put a clamp on it. And they went together good for them, so that was good.
What
And
kind of wood is that, Terry?
This is a wood. I think they told me it's from Australia. It's treated with acetic acid and they call it Akoya. Accoya is simply the name of the wood that's been treated with acetic acid. They give a longer guarantee on this than some of our harsh chemically treated yellow pine in this country. It's expensive. It does not turn well with normal turning tools. You just have to scrape everything. But it scrapes just beautifully. Ribbons just fly off of it. No positive rake on here now. Absolutely neutral rake or a little bit less. When you leave the burr on it, when it comes along and goes off of one joint and starts on the other one, it just chunks out the wood. But if you get rid of the burr, that's it. That's as smooth as it came out without sanding. So
Wow.
I think that curved bandsaw tip is a pro tip. Thank you.
Yeah, it works good. So next I have 7.5 foot post coming, yellow pine, 5-inch square through the middle, and 12 by 12. These people are crazy. They said, well, if we can get it glued up Monday and bring it down maybe Tuesday morning, can you have these 6 pieces turned in a couple of days?
Oh, geez.
Yeah, a couple of days after next month.
So Terry, is it the piece of wood that's at the bottom that has the hole in it that we can see, is there a faceplate behind there?
Yes.
It almost looks like your spindle's coming through there. Is that? So there's a faceplate behind that's holding that piece on there.
There is, and that hole matches the size of my the hole in my faceplate.
Right.
So I can just lay the plywood down, got the faceplate on, and shove a dowel through the back of the faceplate, and that centers it on this thing.
Okay.
I just keep using them until they're used up. So that's how you do it.
Okay.
I have to give a tip with a piece that big around on a faceplate. Make sure you set the set screws into the shaft, because when you turn the lathe off, that goes across your shop like the Tasmanian devil.
And especially if you have 3-phase and you don't have your stuff dialed in right, it stops instantly.
Oh, I never had anything come off the lathe, but I'll tell you, that'll come off the lathe in a minute, and
yeah,
you just get out of the way because it'll jump waist high and run all over the place.
Yeah, I imagine it would. Oh, geez. All right. Well, that's
all I've got.
I'll tell you, bring a different dimension to this stuff. That's really nicely done.
Yeah.
And this.
Thank you.
So did you do the glue up on that?
No.
Okay. Oh, they did
screwed
it.
that up. I should have. I think it was supposed to be 25 3/4 inch finished. They were supposed to bring me a 26-inch piece. They brought a 25.5 inch piece. And then said, can you redesign it so it'll still work?
So did you put the wood stretcher on it or what?
I put it out in the rain.
Call Jim Duxbury, he'll make it longer for you.
That looks like urethane glue too, or something, isn't it?
It is the people that sell the Accoya will not warranty it with anything but a urethane glue.
Wow.
Yes.
Huh. So when you were turning and sanding that wood, that Accoya, is there health hazards due to that, or is that set pretty well into the wood?
You can smell it faintly. You can't smell it near as much as you could a dill pickle.
Okay.
Yeah, and the sanding.
That's a weird place to go for that, but okay.
with a neutral or slightly negative rake scraper, all you did with sandpaper was even the texture all the way across it, so the paint was the same. That's it.
Right.
There was sanding was maybe 2 or 3 minutes most.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's nice stuff.
All right. Well, thanks, Terry. All right, Ted.
Oh, yeah. This Stefan, are you on the line? Are you still here, Stefan?
Yes, I am. I am.
Yeah, this is to match your challenge you threw out almost a year ago. Do you remember?
Yes, the Osage orange.
Yeah. Well, no, this is actually mulberry.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So
Oh.
I don't know if you remember, but I had a crotch,
Mhm.
big crotch piece of mulberry. And I think we discussed on Instagram back and forth about what to do or something. And so you said, let's do a crotch bowl challenge. So this is the
Okay.
answer to that challenge.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it came out. I mean, the coloring is really fantastic on this thing, and it has a great chatoyance to it as well. The photos bring a little bit of that out, but of course, in real life, it's better. And then I left a natural edge on it. And you can see those little lines on the sides there. Those are cracks, but it's really weird the way it cracked. I mean, it didn't crack the top and didn't crack down all the way. It just had those little short cracks, maybe inch and a half long, something like that. And I just filled them with CA glue, after I finished carving it out. And came out pretty cool anyway.
Very nice.
I don't remember that challenge, but now that you bring it up, we'll have to.
If we get 3 months to complete a challenge, I'm in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Looks great.
Well, I think Stefan, you produced something about 3 or 4 months ago from it, didn't you?
I did. And I have to tell you, the mulberry turned boring brown afterwards. Initially looked very nice and yellow, but then the color just went and looked flat.
Huh.
Sorry to even mention that.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, this color, I've actually finished it about a month ago.
Oh.
And it's been drying since last March. So I don't think the color is going to go, but we'll have to see.
I made a hat out of it and it came out bright yellow, and Rita wouldn't even let me wear it outside. But it ended up coming out, it comes a deep leather color. It came out gorgeous. Hey, we were talking about Hawaii before, and I have to tell you one other thing. They put a finish on, and he talked about kukui nut finishes and all that stuff. These guys were making some stuff out of koa, and I brought some koa back, and I made stuff out of it, and I could never get that finish. And I finally asked her brother, I says, next time you see these guys, because they don't have anything special, they carve these plaques and things in the jungle with storyboards with sharp screwdrivers and whatever else. But anyway, I says, I got to know what they finish it with. They use brown kiwi shoe polish. Okay. And they buff the daylights out of it. It comes out gorgeous. I don't know what it would do on this, but the chatoyance is it mirrors it somehow. Anyway.
Yeah, I love the grain patterns in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It has some nice, interesting grain to it with the, with it being a crotch piece. It's three essentially tops to it. And that one, it warped so much that when I turned it out, that one edge, it got knocked off essentially there. So I actually carved it out a little bit more just to make it look like a funnel almost type of thing. So because it was either that or leave the rest of the bowl really warped and thick, and I didn't want to do that. So I ended up cutting that off. So that was the only regret I had, was that losing that piece of it. But it actually came out kind of cool in the end. It's a little more interesting.
Right.
Can I mention this one thing I just looked at your Instagram page? I put out the challenge to have this completed by March 1, 2022.
I just made it. Yeah. Wow. I made the deadline. Thanks to Steve,
Nothing
because I got
happens
my
without
entry in
deadlines.
late. He got it in for me, so.
Yeah,
Good deal.
well, good to have friends in high places.
Yeah,
But Ted, I did only get one in, one of the two, so.
okay,
um,
that's fine. That's fine.
So, all right. And I think our last two here are Norm's.
Yeah, I haven't had a lot of turning time in the last few weeks. So I can go into the shop for small stints. And since Valentine was coming up, I decided to keep the focus on jewelry for a while. So I using the same model I did for the pendants, I just made them a little larger for earrings. And I had the same kind of spectrum of colors, but some of them are up at a store, so I didn't have that many handy. The interesting thing about this, I thought, was I was getting ready to lacquer them. I thought that would be how I would finish them. And I kept looking at them thinking, you know, if you want to have something that looks like wood on your face, you probably want it to have a real rough texture. So they're sanded to 220, and the ones that are dyed, they're hit again with 220 after the dyeing. But I left them fairly natural. So they're smooth, but they're not like a glossy finish. I may still take a couple of them apart and gloss them up, but I kind of like that look a little better.
And how are you fastening those clips on there to the wood? How are those fastened in there?
They're great little clips. I got to go find them again because I actually bought some jewelry finding kits on Amazon that were for some other thing, and I had these from it, and I'm like, this is the perfect thing. There's just a tiny hole drilled, and the clasp basically spreads with 2 pins, and you close the pins up in your hole.
Oh,
It's much cleaner than a ring.
Yeah. And what's the approximate diameter of those, Norm?
They're pretty small. I'm stepping away to grab my caliper here. It's just been a while.
Search for it in the bottom of your toolbox.
Inch and a half.
Okay.
Yeah, I find earrings go better when they're small.
Yeah.
Women do not like big honking, especially if they're made out of wood.
Well, and they get, because they also get too heavy. So
yeah, well, the nice thing is they're burl, so they're really light.
Geez, where'd you get the burl?
This is same. No, this isn't your burl. This is that same batch I picked up on YouTube. It's all like cut wafer, 3/8 inch thick in small segments. These were the slightly larger pieces, so they were perfect size for that.
Good. No, that's
good. I used to hate turning matching things, but you get the hang of it when you're doing them all in a row.
Yeah, I was shaking my head thinking that I forgot there was a mirror there, and I thought it was twice as thick as it is. And I said, well, that's not going to work, but that looks real nice.
Thank you.
That's done. All right, and our last one.
And the last one, yeah. So I haven't turned. This is actually from December. So when I was over at State doing all the laser experiments, this was like the last one in. I had like 20 minutes left, and I said, let's slap this one down and see what happens. And it was rushed. It did not burn sufficiently, and I had to go. So ideally, if it doesn't burn sufficiently, you don't touch a thing, you reset it, and you burn again. Get the depth and texture you want. But I didn't have time. I had to pull it off. And once you pulled it off, there's no way you're going to set it back down and burn it again. So now I'm looking at it and like, it's just so faint. I mean, if you close your eyes, you can feel the texture, but there's no depth to it at all. So I'm torn between I can sand it out or turn it out and try it again, or I can attempt to follow those lines with a wood burner and just make it pop. But I'm not that good with the wood burner, and those lines are fairly detailed, so I'm not quite sure which way to go.
Leave it.
Could you do something to it that would enhance it, like a foggy look, because then it wouldn't have to be, all the depth of it or the sharpness of it, the fog, like, through the city or something, smoke or whatever kind of thing.
I don't quite follow you. I'm interested. I just don't understand how I would do
so
it.
Like early morning, you look over a city and there's sometimes fog, right, laying over the top of the city,
I understand what you're describing. I have no idea how to get there.
Yeah, I don't either. No idea either. I'm just thinking that would be one way where you wouldn't have to If there was some way to get that on there, maybe somebody else has got ideas.
Kiwi shoe polish.
There you go.
Norm, what kind of wood is that?
It's a wormy ash.
Have you tried putting it, have you thought about putting it into kind of like a little ammonia tent?
No, I've never tried that. What would that would blacken it, right?
That would darken it up. And it appears that the stuff around the edges would darken up more. And basically all you do is go down to Food Line or Harris Teeter or whatever and buy the 5% ammonia, put it into a plastic tub with about a cup of ammonia, let it set for, however long you want. You can check it from time to time to see how it's darkened.
And you think it'll darken the burn more than it will the wood?
Yep.
I will consider that. Thank you very much.
Time for a test piece.
Yeah, I don't, that's the other thing. I don't have anything to test it with.
Well, I guess the question is that rim thick enough that if it didn't work, you could just turn it
Yes.
and just do another, because I love the detail down in here of these little buildings and stuff, and you know, some of this fine stuff. That's such an incredible laser that's doing that. I mean, I think that would be spectacular if it was burned deep like your other cityscape one.
There's plenty of thickness. So that undercut rim only goes in about an inch and a half. So there's a lot of wood under that rim.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, so you have a chance to experiment.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Normally I might be afraid of the ammonia, but I can't really ruin it.
Yeah, the other thing, I would think that putting a clear gloss finish or something like that might blacken the darker areas, might make the dark areas a little darker too, but it's hard to know.
Yeah. It's mainly, the thing I like about these is the feel, and it's just a very subtle texture change because it's not very deep.
Yeah, I mean it's a great pattern. I think that reproducing that burn deeper would be really make that a really cool piece, because the texture of the wood just kind of blends right into it.
Yeah. Gotta like that wormy ash from our friend.
Yep. So, all right. Well, nicely done, Norm.
Yeah, a lot of character there.
We look forward to seeing the result.
Yeah, absolutely.
One way or another.
Yeah, or the disaster, whichever case ends up.
Do progress pictures.
All right. Well, that is our gallery for tonight.
Cool.
And
Very nice.
appreciate everybody participating and your comments.